Hello and welcome to another episode of the 905er podcast with me, Roland Tanner.
I am Joel McLeod.
And, it's been a fun week in Halton region. Pleased to say in some ways, very unhappy to say in other ways, that we've been at the forefront of it. And Joel in particular, you've been taking a close interest in the story in Halton Catholic District School Board over the whether to pass a motion that would have seen the Pride flag fly over Halton's Catholic schools during Pride Month, which is June. The meeting was on Monday evening.
Monday evening, yes.
And it was, quite a thing, I understand.
I'll frame it this way. A friend and colleague, I'll say, called it or declared it a circus of shame online, and I think it's an apt description. It was, you and I have been in many political settings, political debates, heated debates in politics, and I've never seen anything like what I saw on Monday. To summarize, if you want to see a play-by-play, go check out our Twitter stream. I live tweeted the entire event and try to keep up as best I could with what happened. But long story short, again, it's very clear that this board did not want to have this debate, did not want to go down this path at all, and rather than have an honest debate and have an honest discussion, three trustees in particular basically just hijacked the entire meeting to try and use procedural wranglings, points of privilege, points of order, amendments to amendments, and general stall tactics to prolong the meeting or to prolong the vote. It had to be one of the most juvenile behaviors of any elected official I have ever seen, I would say, in this country. It was just an embarrassment from start to finish.
That's the impression I got. And I had a meeting on Monday and a meeting on Tuesday, which means I haven't watched the proceedings. So my information is coming directly from your Twitter account, which actually, it seemed to give to me a pretty good understanding of what was going on, which was, it's not technically a filibuster in the American sense of the word, as someone speaking and standing up for hours on end, but it was a death by 1,000 strokes of literally every single word and line in the motion kind of being picked apart, being amended. And, what happened was there was no vote on the flag because by the time it got to the vote, the flag was already gone. That was my understanding anyway.
On that front, I mean, I think one of the most shocking twists of the night was what was presumably a progressive trustee and someone who if this is the second meeting, in the previous meeting had voted and made her intentions clear. She wanted the Pride flag flown. For some reason, at this meeting, proposed an amendment which essentially gutted the entire original motion. Trustee Janet O'Hearn Zarnata proposed, really, to me, it was out of left field. I had no idea this was coming, but she proposed an amendment that eliminated the flying of the flag entirely, eliminated the safe space posters from every classroom, reducing it to just one poster in the school, and substituted the rest with training and equity and inclusion training for executive and staff of the boards. And it was just, this was shocking. And then this is what pretty much the rest of the night was debated on, nitpicking over this amendment, which was just, it was an embarrassment of epic proportions for any Halton Catholic parent or student on Monday night.
So in essence, the motion that was brought that the parents delegated on, and to be fair, the delegates on both sides, for and against, delegated on, never even kind of got out of the starting blocks to an extent because of the amendment that was brought. the and meanwhile, this is a classic way that elected bodies do business. So it's not unusual. But the thing is, when you see this kind of thing in the raw, so to speak, it's so you realize how broken the system can be, and how it can be used by people with really pretty malicious ends, it seemed to me. Now, I mean, I respect people's religious convictions, but that didn't seem to be what was going on. What we had was one trustee in particular, I think it's trustee Ian, you have to correct me if I'm pronouncing this wrong. Ian Tomosi. Yeah.
Yes.
Who again and again and again brought it back to things like the technicalities of flagpoles, the cost of flags, what it's going to cost a Halton taxpayer to pay for, 6 foot of acrylic cotton, in just incredibly kind of juvenile, by the way, and not addressing the actual issues at all. And then you get the kind of compromise, the traditional attempt at a compromise, when there is no compromise on this. This was about a symbolic display combined with some important statements of support and solidarity aimed at students and aimed at LGBTQ plus students in particular. What we've got instead is training for people who probably are, well, as we're seeing subsequently, actually, the schools themselves, the people running the schools, the people who control the Twitter accounts anyway, don't have the problems that the trustees do, because they're posting rainbow flags everywhere. Well, you pointed this out today, and you can...
Well, that's something I wanted to bring up, and I'm glad that you did, because this notion, and this was a theme that the trustees, always came back to, is, we want to solve the problem. Do we need more inclusion and equity workshops and seminars and all this nonsense? And within 24 hours of this travesty happening, every HCDSB high school, I don't know how many elementary, but a good deal. I've just, my Twitter feed has just been exploding with this stuff, are posting positive, affirming LGBTQ plus messages to their students and to their families that go to their schools, that they are welcome, that they are included, and that they are valued members of their communities. I would argue that clearly this board of trustees, if what was on display wasn't an example of bigotry and homophobia, if it's not that, I would classify it as a gross sense of incompetence on their part for not being able to know what goes on in their schools. The sense that this was another topic that was brought up by trustees DeRosa and trustees Antomasi, that this flag waving is it's a symbolic gesture that means nothing and doesn't get to the root cause of the issue of presumably LGBTQ plus bigotry and homophobia. Within the last 24 hours, the schools have shown that is the last thing that happens in these schools. This flag would have been would have been a far more meaningful gesture. It would have been a cap off of clearly a movement by teachers and staff to try and make their places more accepting to LGBTQ students. The root cause of this is the trustees. It's their attitude. You can't play. There's no middle ground on this topic. You can't. There's no gray area to negotiate with. It's called human dignity, basic human worth. You either view the LGBTQ plus students as valued members of your community, or you don't. And if you have to debate it, you clearly don't. And it's sad to see that there's a good chunk of trustees who just don't get this. I don't see.
And I'm not sure it's. Yeah, I'm not sure that this is something that's reflected in the electorate at all, really, anymore, or is vastly overwhelmed by people who would not be in agreement with the trustees. However, the trustees are not elected by an electorate that generally knows who they're voting for. But the people who do know what they're voting for are far more likely to be motivated by narrow religious interests, shall we say. And we know people like the Campaign Life Coalition are involved in campaigning for trustees, particularly in the Catholic school boards. There's these things going on that shouldn't be going on, that have nothing to do with education, have nothing to do with a state-funded education system, certainly. And I was saying to a friend yesterday, I was like, if the Catholic school boards want to be abolished, they're going the right way about it. Because with every time that these discussions happen, more people are like, this can't be tolerated anymore. I'm not sure that there's any party in Ontario at the moment that has the stomach to take the schools issue on.
The Green Party says that they will, for what it's worth. The Green Party.
So there's one.
But you're exactly right. If you the following day after I went to bed, I went back through the Twitter thread. I was just curious to see what people might have replied to it. The overwhelming messages from the public at large was, "Why are we funding this? Why do we have two systems if we have to deal with this all the time?" And it's, I sit there and I say, I don't have an answer for them. I don't have a justification anymore to say that this is it's so valued in an important part of the Ontario education system. You and I did a quick, we're not constitutional lawyers by any stretch of the imagination, but you and I were curious, like, what exactly does, the Constitution say about this? And it never says explicitly you must have a Catholic education system. It basically,
it's funny because carry on. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, it's almost written as a way for a province to get out of funding it. There are all these clauses written into the BNA Act, which I find ironic because one of the trustees brought that forward, wanting to be amended into the motion at one point. And I was thinking, like, as we were reading, like, have you actually read this thing? Like, it doesn't say explicitly, like, you're protected from all else, and this is your carte blanche. The act itself just says you can't infringe, but you have to make it equal to everybody. And there is a clause where if you do want to get out of it, you write a letter to the Governor General. The province writes a letter to the Governor General and says, we don't want to do this anymore. And the Governor General, just always says, okay. The Governor General never vetoes anything. So whoever he or she may be will say,
well, no, I mean,
okay.
it's the Governor General in Council, which basically means the federal government.
Yes.
So when it's the same provincially, it's the lieutenant governor in council. My brain's going blank on all the technical terms of Canadian constitution. However, so actually, Ontario could at any time write to, according to the British North America Act, could write to the federal government and say, through the formula of the Governor General, and say, we don't want Catholic schools anymore. Can you take them away, please? And it's not, like you say, it's not. And I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but ironically, I was in a long distant time a constitutional historian. So I've read a lot of laws over the years, and what I had been led to understand was that there's this kind of cast iron, there shall be Catholic schools rule in the Constitution, which I never quite understood, given that Ontario is the only one. But there we are. And that's nothing like that. It just says you can't treat Catholics and Protestants, as was the concern in 1867, differently. So the minority, the minorities have rights in the province where they are the minority. Yes. But like you say, it says nowhere. It says there shall be Catholic schools or any other kind of schools, and it also says quite clearly, to my mind, that what mattered was what existed in 1867, not 2021. Well,
we have precedent in this country of Quebec and Newfoundland have done away with their religious schoolings. Newfoundland passed a referendum. Quebec legislated them out to stop funding. They have carried on, and nobody's batted an eye at Quebec or Newfoundland for that. You said Ontario is the only one. I believe Alberta is the other province in Confederation, but 2 out of 10 provinces having Catholic education.
Right.
That's not a huge mountain to climb on. What happened?
No, Ontario. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say what happened Monday night is it was a travesty. It was an embarrassment. It was disgusting. There's no defense of it. There's no way around it. And you're right. If they want to keep going down this road, they want to wrap themselves in the Bible and say that we have some kind of divine mandate from high up above to educate our students as we want. At some point, the public will break. At some point, the straw will break the camel's back, and the public will say, "This is enough. We don't care. We don't care if you're Catholic. We don't care what the Constitution says," which we just said. There are outs. The public will be there. I would caution trustees who think I'm wrong. The upcoming election, provincial election, we are heading into a massive deficit due to COVID. It's going to take some real clever thinking about what do we cut to start paying off this debt and to start getting the finances in order. The other problem is the Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce, has really done a number on the education system, which will take a lot of repairs to get fixed. Some provincial party looking to make a name for themselves at campaign time might find it very advantageous to say, yeah, I'll just do away with the Catholic system. We're just going to have one board for everyone, publicly funded across the way. And if you think, oh, they won't do it, they can't do it, it's not right, it doesn't make sense. Wait and see. Somebody will do it at some point. All right, I'm going to call it quits on that topic because we're coming up to the halfway point.
Well, I'd just like to add.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I'd like to add just one final thing actually on that, which is just to say thank you to all the teachers and the people in the schools who have posted tweets and comments saying everyone is welcome. Bishop Redding School, is it? Correct me if again. I don't have children, so I'm not an expert on schools. Congratulations to them. Holy Trinity, Assumption, and St. Ignatius of Loyola, a whole bunch of teachers. Congratulations to you for doing the right thing, for standing up for your students, for your gay, lesbian, transgender students, students of all kinds, and making it clear that what was done by the school board trustees was completely unacceptable. So well done to you. And so, yeah, let's move on to happier things, maybe. Probably not happier things. Probably something else that we're going to moan about. You got an injection this week.
I did.
Apparently there's a disease floating around.
Yeah. I got I got my COVID shot, my AstraZeneca COVID shot. The whole process leading up to it was a gong show. As soon as the word came down that 40 plus could get AstraZeneca, which I believe was because they had a bunch on the shelf and they're worried that they're going to go bad. So they said, well, let's just lower the age limit. I immediately went on and started clicking around on the portals and the pharmacies to find a spot. I started following the Vax Hunters Canada Twitter feed to find that, and I found a few spots to put in. I must have been on about 8 or 9 waiting lists for a COVID-19 shot. Luckily, I got in one of the first ones that I did sign on to here in Burlington. They said, we got a spot. Actually, it happened when we were recording our episode with Ashley Comrie that happened on Tuesday. When we were recording it, I got an email.
It did. I left it in. Yeah, I didn't cut it out. So there's evidence. Of you receiving your.
I'll apologize to our listeners. I must have sounded completely unprofessional, but I was just like, okay. Apparently, I got it. Like, here's the thing: like, you had to put in all the information yourself. I had to go in and find my family doctor, and I had to put in the number for the clinic that I go to. I had to punch in my own health card number. And I thought, don't they already have this information? Like, it's government issued information. Why am I having to register this to get the government mandated? I guess it's not mandated, but the government wants me to get this. Why is it that I have to jump through all these hoops to get it? So that's what I spent that recording doing. And I got in, got the shot. It was easy peasy. Walked in, they sat me down, checked off some, do you have blood pressure, that kind of stuff, and answered quickly. They jabbed me in the arm, and I hung around for 15 minutes to make sure I didn't pass out. I didn't. Went home, and I thought I was A-OK fine. I thought I was I felt A-OK and no problem. And then it was funny. You and I were chatting last night just about podcast business, and all of a sudden it was like a switch in my body turned on, and my fingertips.
That's the chip. That's when it was activated,
Well, so I'm expecting my Wi-Fi to just be through the roof, but we're waiting for that to happen.
That's it.
But it's just like
now the Bill Gates is directly into your head.
Maybe, but
so I shouldn't even joke about it, should I? Yeah,
no, it's because it's so preposterous. It's the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. But anyways, like my fingertips started getting cold, my toes started getting cold. I started getting sweats, and I was just like, "What's going on?" Okay, this must be the side effects. So I logged off with you, and I went upstairs, climbed into bed. This was about like 9:30 at night. Climbed into bed, and I was just shivering underneath my covers, just head to toe, just shivering. And my wife was laying next to me, and she said, like, you were like shivering and sweating and moaning all night, just laying there. And I'll be honest, I felt like shit. Like it felt like I had a bad case of the flu.
Right.
I woke up at about 1 o'clock. The shakes were gone, but I still had the sweats, and I was tossing and turning all night, and woke up this morning, and I felt like you had that day after you get through the flu, that, if you have the flu the day after, you just need that one extra day to kind of kick it. That's what I felt like. I feel better now. If anyone's wondering, I do endorse it. I do say, go get your COVID shot. If your number comes up, do not turn it away. This is a normal thing. I've asked my friends who are also getting the AstraZeneca vaccine. They said they all went through a similar experience, varying degrees, of course. But it's just kind of it's kind of like a short-term pain for a long-term gain. Is how I viewed it.
Yeah, absolutely. And feeling under the weather actually, I guess, proves it's working, because that's your immune system going, hey, we need some antibodies in the room here. Let's get to building some. So it's the miracle of biology or whatever, but it doesn't mean it doesn't feel crummy at the time. But it makes, just before we came on, we were kind of chatting about some of this, and it makes the point about the sick day situation with the government being so completely upside down, back to front. People having to take days off work. I know the teachers are losing sick days because when they go to get vaccinated, they have to treat that as a sick day. Now they have sick days, so they're ahead of many people. However, they are having to take a negative consequence for doing what the government wants them to do, which is not give COVID to kids. Thanks very much. Which just seems crazy to me. And then we have now, the provinces caved, because they do cave, because they're very weak, to some form of paid sick pay, but it's not real paid sick pay, because it's being attached to the federal system, and it's not employer paid sick pay. And there's a reason why it's important that employers support this, rather than it being a kind of subsidy that people have to apply for, or people have to do whatever. And that's that businesses are already paying people to be at work. I don't get this logic that there's a massive burden on businesses when they pay people to stay home, basically. It's like, well, either you can pay for a potentially ill person or a definitely ill person to be on your production line or in your office or whatever, in which case you're paying to spread sickness, or you can pay them and they stay home. The dollar amount is the same to you. You're no worse off or better off. And you're probably going to lose a lot less. You can have a lot less disruption if you keep people with COVID-19 out of your office. So this is something that happens the world over. It's such a non-controversial issue in most of the Western world that when people are ill, they are able to look after themselves and not be punished for being ill. And of course, the Premier is currently enjoying that very privilege himself, taking many days off work, or many days away from the office, at least we'll say, because he's been exposed to COVID-19. And we're seeing here, even with the vaccinations, that you probably would have, in many ways, deserved a sick day today. You got your vaccination, you're doing what society wants, you feel like crap, you're not going to do good work anyway.
Well,
stay the hell home.
I did pretty much take the day off. I mean, I didn't have it in me to do anything. My head wasn't clear to do any work. But you're right. If we're going to, we need people to get vaccinated. We need people to get this shot so that we can lift all the restrictions, stop doing the lockdowns. Businesses can reopen. We can go back to a more robust life than what we currently are doing now. But to do that, we might have to tell people, take 24 hours, take 48 hours off, go get your shot. If people are thinking to themselves, I can't afford the time off, I'll just wear the mask and hope that the guy next to me doesn't have COVID. It's going to take so much longer to get everybody vaccinated. And we don't have the time to do it. We just, and again, it goes back to this government just doesn't have a plan to address this. The government, it's always somebody else's problem. Oh, you don't get vaccinated. Well, that's on you. Well, some people can't afford to take the day off work. Some people are sitting there, they're living paycheck to paycheck, especially in like regions of Peel. They sit there and say, I want to get my vaccine, my COVID shot, but I can't afford 2 days off of work to sit there and do the shakes and the chills just to get it in my system, to get my body, trained to fight COVID. That takes time, and you're not going to do that. I am going to play the devil's advocate here. Go back to a point that you just said about businesses not being paid to work in an office setting. Yeah, a business, you're going to pay somebody to either stay home or not. In a wage setting, I know this because I've been a manager of restaurants in the past. If somebody doesn't come in, you have to find somebody to fill that spot. Otherwise, your productivity just goes down the tubes. So you do need to have somebody come in to fill that. So you end up paying for an extra wage of somebody who does not work, and that comes out of your day's profits. That is a small business issue, and it's a very real one. However, I have seen online the simple math of, you pay somebody a minimum wage job, it may cost you $125 a day, depending on the shift. So if an 8-hour day or whatever have you, it might cost you $125 in wages and whatnot. It costs the government $4,000 a day in ICU costs for somebody on COVID or somebody on in an ICU bed. Do the math. It's a better investment just to tell somebody, here, I'll pay you $115 or $125, stay at home, sleep it off, come into work tomorrow. If that means we have to reimburse the small business owner, I'm okay with that. I'll be honest, I couldn't care less about Walmart or Amazon. They won't even know that they have to pay $125 in wages to a warehouse worker or whatever have you. The small business guy, I get it. And that's where I would argue that you could send in a subsidy to them to help pay for that. But again, this government doesn't get it. I mean, we were told this was going to be the greatest sick leave pay in North America, Roland. The greatest. And what did we get?
I mean, this is just straight out of the Trump playbook, isn't it?
It is. But we got three magical days off. Yukon, the Yukon territories has 10. You know, it's it's I'll be honest, it's the same. It's the same behavior that Doug Ford is giving us, the people of Ontario. It's the same behavior that the HCDSB trustees gave uh, the parents and students and faculty of their schools. It was dismissive. It was uninformed. It was unintelligent. It was disgraceful. It's clear you're in it for yourselves. It is it's I'm trying to use polite language, but I really can't. And all I can say is there will be a reckoning. Election season, I gotta believe that there will be a reckoning, that people will just say enough is enough, and we're not going to take it anymore.
I hope so. And I hope our crazy electoral system doesn't screw it up for the vast majority of people who never voted for this government in the first place. Yeah. This is a stupid government. It's a government that makes stupid decisions for stupid reasons with no real, well, I'm going to call them stupid because they would call people like me, elites or snobs, or the fact that I worked hard and got an education is somehow a bad thing with people like me. So they've done that for 20 years. So I'm going to call them thick because they're bloody idiots. They don't know what they're doing. They're incompetent. They don't understand the simplest argument. Not the simplest, maybe, but if an argument takes more than 2 minutes to explain, they're not going to understand it, and they're going to be against it because they're not very bright people. And I'm sick of it. We need to elect people with actual bloody brains.
You know what we need? We need to elect people with empathy, because it's clear this government does not care about anyone but itself. Doug Ford, like every minister I've seen step up to the microphone just has no idea what the rest of us are going through. They are just so removed from what the chaos that they are wreaking on the ground. They do not know the stress of going into work. They don't understand the disruptions in our education system. They don't understand the stresses that they're putting on our healthcare system. They don't understand the plight of small businesses that are trying to make it in the world and are asking for help or guidance or a path forward. They don't get it because they don't care, and they don't want to care. We are collateral damage to them on their own fantasy of what they want to do. I don't know what it is, but clearly we are not part of that equation.
And the irony is, of all the rhetoric that comes from the right wing about elites and people being out of connect and them being for the little guy and all that garbage, is everything they do, everything they say speaks to people who've never had to fight for a damn thing in their lives. I know there are exceptions to that. But when I look at Doug Ford, I see a rich kid who never had to struggle and who was just always told that he was wonderful. Doug, you're just doing so great. Here, inherit a business. Here, you can run the province. Here, it's... Anyway, I look at all those front benchers, those ministers who've just abjectly failed to do a damn thing. Merrily Fullerton. The list goes on. Lecce. These are people who've fallen into jobs, and the same goes for I can't even remember his blasted name. The former leader of the Federal Conservatives. I've blanked him out of my mind because he was so
Andrew
awful.
Scheer?
Here's a kid, Andrew Scheer. Yeah, here's a guy who'd never done anything in his life, never had a proper job, who thought to lecture us on how things should be run, and how he understood the people in a way that other parties don't. It's like, you guys have had it easy, and your whole careers are based around defending your privilege. I know this phrase gets used an awful lot now, and there's probably some people who just roll their eyes when they hear the word privilege. But it is. These are very privileged people who have it easy, defending their ability to have it easy. And I'm sick and tired of it because they have screwed up so badly in the last year.
What frustrates me is that you have, and again, I'm going to throw it back into the HCDSB situation here locally. You have people asking for help. You have people coming up to them saying, "We want recognition. We need help. We need you to use your power as our elected representative to help us. we are in trouble, we are hurting, we are scared, help us make it better. And instead what we get is no, because I can't imagine what it's like to be you. I can't imagine what it would be like to be in your shoes. And not only that, I don't want to. I don't want to learn what it would be like to be a small business person and feel the responsibility of employing people so that they can live, or to put food on your table and a roof over your children's heads. To have an education system that you can rely on is going to teach your kids how to be upstanding citizens and contributing members of society. That when you walk into a public space, you are welcomed and you are valued, and you know where your place is. They don't want to hear this story. They don't want to extend that understanding to these people, or to us as human beings, because they just can't be bothered. We are not worth their time.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we're probably reaching our limit, and I was just about to dive into another rant, but we have to do better than this. We have to do better than the school board. We can't have meetings like that anymore. We can't have politicians like this anymore, who are disconnected, who treat us with contempt. I mean, the contempt of the trustees, not to stand up and say, I am against the pride flag, I don't want it to be flown, I'm going to vote no. Fine, you're entitled to that. You're elected to make those decisions. You can vote that way. I'm going to disagree with you, but you can do that. But they didn't do that. They talked about the cost of flagpoles. They talked about the right of this line or that line to be in. They talked about procedural issues because they think we're morons. And because they know their argument sucks. They know they will lose it in a straight fight. And so they're going to try and win on technicalities. And that is an example that just happens every day in every political forum in this country and in countries across the world. And that's the way our democracy works right now. And it's not good enough anymore to accept that. We have democracy, but it's not a good enough democracy. We can do so much better. I will, as we approach the 40-minute mark, I will call time on it. But yeah, well, time's up, guys. Let's do better.
We'll be keeping an eye on the school board story as it unfolds over the coming weeks and months, I'm sure. And of course, COVID is not going anywhere, so we'll be following that as it develops. But thank you very much, everyone, for listening to today's episode of the 905er. We'll be back on Tuesday. Take care. That's it for this episode of the 905er. Thank you for listening. As always, you can send us your feedback, thoughts, and concerns, or ideas for future episodes to our email, info@905er.ca. We'd love to hear from you. You can help us keep the 905er going by financially supporting us through Patreon as well as PayPal. Visit us at 905er.ca and click on the support tab. As well, links are in the show notes for your convenience. Lastly, you can find us on social media. Search for _905er on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So long for now. See you next time.
Looking to make the most out of this life and optimize your personal wellness? Then check out the Natural Man Podcast. Join me, host Mike C., as we explore all areas of human wellness, physical, mental, and emotional. Learn strategies to optimize your own well-being and be in the driver's seat of your own health. Remember, your doctor works for you. Learn biohacks, neurohacks, ways to improve sleep, and ways to optimize your body and your mind. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, the Fountain app, and at naturalmanpodcast.com.